everyone. Thank you for being here. Today we are in step number 7, and today we're going to talk about creating more space in your life based off of the concept of the way you make more money is by spending less. It's harder to increase your income than it is to reduce your expenses. Now, this is very true for actual money, but what we're going to talk about today is specifically towards the idea of our time and energy. In order for us to create more time and energy, we have to stop spending it where we are currently spending it, and there are 3 different ways that we're going to talk about it, and within each of those ways, 3 specific things that you can do to shift your mindset and really start realizing where that is being spent and how you can take your time and energy back. So, I got my trusty, whatever this is called, pad of paper. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the idea of stop buying validation. In the world that we live in, it is very easy to seek gratification instantly from posting on Instagram or telling your friends something that you've done, buying something, and proving to the world that, hey, look, I've made it. So instead of constantly trying to prove that you're successful to every single person in your life, the more important thing is to actually prove it to yourself. What does success look like to you, and not what is defined by the rest of the world? A great deal of people think that being successful means being married by the age of 30, having a kid by 35, owning a house by the same amount of time. For a lot of people, what society has created, that is what success looks like. For those people who have chosen that path because they were told they should choose it, that is not necessarily their greatest version of life or the life they would have chosen for themselves. So we have to define the success for ourselves and understand that we are buying other people's validation when we are buying certain items, when we are posting certain things, when we are expecting compliments because of what we wear, when we are searching for other people to validate who we are. We are giving our power constantly away to other people, and to bring it back to ourselves, we have to define what is success and why does that actually mean success for us. You have goals for your life, and if you don't, this is a perfect time to start figuring out what it is that you want. And if you say that you don't, know that you do, because there are certain things that you're working towards. Are you trying to get healthier? Are you trying to read more? Are you trying to get outside more? And if you are, why are you doing this? And if you don't really know where you fall, start thinking about it. See where you are looking for other people to validate what you're doing, and figure out ways to stop doing that. And one of the first ways is to stop buying things that the rest of the population is telling you to do, and that's really what number 2 is. Are you buying into an idea, a theory, a vision that isn't something that you actually like or want to be a part of? For me, I know that there is so many books that are popular on Book Talk or BookTube or whatever, and that there's a lot of people who are into the trendy stuff. And being trendy is a form of validation. When we are doing what everybody else is doing, we feel like we're part of the group. We're part of that social structure that everybody else is part of, and it makes us feel better about ourselves because everybody else is doing it, so we must be on the right track. But like we've said, being on the track that everybody else is doesn't mean it's going to make you happy. You have to decide what it is that you are interested in and want to be a part of. If everybody likes Taylor Swift and you've listened to her songs and you don't like it, you don't need to say that you do or continue to force yourself to listen to it. If you like chocolate ice cream versus vanilla ice cream, you don't have to force yourself to eat vanilla ice cream because everybody else at the party says that's their favorite. If we're not doing it with these simple things like music and ice cream, we have to be doing it on the things that are taking up so much more of our time. When we look at our food that we eat or the clothes that we wear, a lot of the times they're our own decision. So why are we giving these huge things other people's opinions of more input than our own? Why are we allowing other people's thoughts on something to matter more than our own when we won't even do it on the small things? When you go to Chipotle, you get what you want. You don't get what the last person or what the person in front of you got because it's easier. No, you pick what you want because it's your burrito. This life is your Chipotle bowl. You have to put what's in whatever you put in there, you're going to eat. Nobody else. You can get the extra hot sauce and more guac because you're the one that's going to pay for the bowl and you're the one that's going to eat it. We understand what this analogy means. But that is the point, is this is your life. You have to be excited about what you're putting into your bowl, into your life, because you are the one who is going to be consuming it and paying for it. So you better start liking the things that you're consuming. If this book is famous for everyone and you want to give it a try, that's fine. But if you don't like it, you don't have to keep reading it. I know I did a few videos on A Court of Thorns and Roses. I didn't particularly like the third book, and I bought the whole 5-set series because everybody else was into it. There must be some value to it. There was some value I got out of the first 2 books, but I could not commit any more of my time to reading it. I just did not want to spend my time that way, and I get to decide that. And I was the one that paid for those books. So I bought into this trend. I had a feeling I wasn't going to like it that much because of what I've heard about it, and I was right. But I wanted to prove to myself that I was right. Is there cheaper ways to do that? Yeah, and spending money and spending time is really the same thing, because you had to spend time to get that money, and how much time are we going to keep wasting? The third way we seek validation from other people is through playing small. If you've ever been around people who make you feel lesser, who make you feel like you can't share what you're going through because they're always going through something worse, or they make less money than you, or they're having more troubles than you, and you can't share what you're going through because it sounds like you're bragging to them, you are actually searching for that person's validation, because you are saying, you know what, I don't have any problems, I just want to listen to you. And I want you to think that I am such an awesome person and so willing to listen and such a good friend, because I don't ever need anything, I'm just here to offer and offer and offer. You are searching for that person's validation that you are a good friend, that you are worthy of being in their life. And yet you're getting nothing out of this. If somebody is constantly complaining about their life and what they're going through and what they've been through, and they really could care less what you've been through and don't want to offer and don't want to share from your side, they don't want to hear it, then you don't need to listen to them. You're playing small by being around people who just talk about things and aren't actually doing anything. If you are looking to be a better version of yourself and these people aren't allowing that, because if they would feel bad about themselves if you filled your potential or you followed your path and created the life you wanted, it would hurt them. Those are not the people that you need to be around. If you being authentic to who you are and the things that you want is hurting other people, hurt other people. Let those people go. You don't need their validation. They're not getting you to the place you want to be, and what does their validation actually do for you? Does it make you happy? Does it make you better able to function in your own life? Remember, you are paying for that Chipotle bowl and you get to put whatever you want in it. Nobody else has to validate it for you. And if you put extra guac and buy chips and that person behind you can't afford guac and chips and therefore you shouldn't get it, well, that's not how this game works. That's not how life actually works. You should be able to share and to offer yourself to the world and to the people around you, and people around you can choose not to like that, and they can remove themselves from your life, and you can remove them as well. You don't have to wait until somebody else decides to leave your life in order for you to decide that their presence is no longer worth it. Once you feel it, act on it and decide to move on. You don't need anybody else's validation, because nobody else is eating your Chipotle bowl. You might offer to buy somebody lunch once in a while, but you are buying your own lunches a majority of the time, and you are eating by yourself a majority of the time. At some point in life, we have to realize that we are alone so much more of the time than we aren't, and if we don't enjoy the person that we're around when nobody else is, we will never like being alone and never be okay with it. So why aren't we searching for our own validation? You have to validate yourself because you have to live within yourself 24/7. Constantly, every decision, every choice. So whether people like you or not needs to not matter. Whether you like your own decisions or not needs to matter significantly more, because your validation is the only one that matters. And that is something that I've had to really forced myself to look at these past few days and this past year is I was playing it small for so many people. I was allowing people who were going nowhere to bring me down to their level, and they really did pull me down into this dark, sad version of myself. And the person that they liked, the joyful, fun, excited person who was always laughing, disappeared because it was replaced by these people who could not see past their own issues. And as much as I'm telling you, I'm telling it to myself. Everybody else's view of my life doesn't matter except for mine, because I'm the one who has to pay my bills and to keep paying them over and over again. Now, the second thing we have to stop buying into is the past. That is a bill that seems constantly to be paid even though the loan has been paid off. You've actually done all you can for the past. There is nothing that you can get from it anymore. And one way to stop buying into the past is to stop applying past patterns to new people. Because you see so many people in your life, we tend to figure out patterns about people. But unfortunately, we also will take patterns that we've seen of other people and apply them to new people. Now, that isn't always inaccurate. If there's certain behaviors that this person is doing that exactly matches up to this other person, then yes, we can probably conclude that this second person is going to hurt us like that first person did. But if there's certain decisions that people are making that are fairly neutral, it does not mean that it's a reflection on us. Very recently, one of my friends messaged me that they were going to go and extend one of their trips, and I was like hurt by it because I thought that maybe we could spend time together, even though that wasn't necessarily ever explicitly stated from my end. And I was like, oh my god, like they don't care about me. And it reminded me of a previous person that I had in my life who never made time for me and only made time when it was super convenient for them. And I was just like, there's decisions here being made that seem the same, but they're not. And I'm applying something that happened in the past to this new person, and that's not fair to this new person, this other friend. And I'm the only one who is applying these same patterns to this other person. I actually cannot say that every new person I meet is a replica of a previous person. In some ways, we all have very similar storylines. Some of us have been laid off, some of us have been married and now no longer are, some of us have moved to different states, to different countries. Certain characteristics of our life stories are the same. How they impacted us, how they've changed us, how they're influencing us today is different across the board, no matter how similar certain scenarios are. So we can't force people into a mold that they didn't even create of themselves. Now, if this new person is constantly finding excuses not to hang out with me and always doing other things and always the last person to be seen, now I'm starting to see a pattern develop. But somebody choosing to extend a trip and go to another place is not a dig at me and saying like, well, I never want to hang out with you. We've made other plans. I will see this person. So it's not about taking what's happened before and applying it to this new person and holding them to this standard. And we've all seen it. We've been in friendships or relationships with people who are holding us to the flame of their past person that they were with, where, well, every time that person didn't text me back within an hour, they were talking to somebody else and cheating on me. It's like, if you go through life expecting that behavior to mean certain things, it eventually will. Because if you're accused of something for long enough, you will eventually just force the person to do it. Because if I'm going to serve the time, I might as well be doing the crime. And that's how these new people will start to feel. So instead of approaching it through the lens of everything you've been through in the negative, see what patterns you're picking up now. What did you learn during those past experiences that can make you more aware now? Well, somebody deliberately avoiding talking to me when certain people are around isn't great, and this is something that I should jot down, and this is something that I should keep note of. And this is what we need to be doing in our life, is constantly gathering data of the people around us, what they're doing, what they're not doing, and what that means to us. Because life is not just what you can live with, but what you can live without. Are you okay with not talking to your friends every single week and only talking once a month? Are you okay with the person that you're with having a lot of other friends and other responsibilities where they only see you twice a week? What are you okay with and what are you not okay with? You have to decide that. And it can be based off of what you've been through before, but it can't be out of a constant fear that the next person is going to hurt you like the other person will. Because that other person isn't going to hurt you because you've learned from it. They can't take your power away like that other person did, because you know what your power is and where it stands. But we'll talk about that a little bit more when we come to number 3. The second way that we are constantly buying into the past is we are projecting our fears onto new people. We're scared that this person's going to hurt us like the other one did. We're scared that we're going to lose people out of nowhere. We're afraid that this job is going to treat us like the last one did, and that we're going to end up on the street because of it. Now, this is a fear that was very real in my own mind, because I wasn't just let go of one job, I was let go of 2 jobs in the span of like 3 months. And I went into the second one like already afraid. I'm like, what if this happens again? What if this next company all of a sudden for no reason decides to let me go like the other one? Well, as much as I was afraid of it, it happened again. It literally happened twice in 1 year, in a span of a few months, that the exact same scenario was repeated. Now you could say like I manifested it because I was thinking about it and therefore it came to life. Maybe all of it happened in the way that it was supposed to, because this current job, which I had fears about it in its own right, it was tough, and I had to look at it and stare at it in the face and be like, I do have a different relationship to this because I have different data points than most people. Most people can leave one job and go to the next on their own decision and know why they're being let go, because there's a layoff or restructuring or whatever, and they have a reason behind it, and somebody can offer them a reason. I wasn't able to get that from those jobs. And I don't know what I was being saved from at those jobs either. And I choose to look at what happened to me in the sense of I was being kept from something that was going to hurt me instead of being kept from something that was good for me. I wanted to look at it from that perspective because that's what got me through to the next day. And when it came to this job, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm going to not assume that I will know. But what I am going to do is, with the time that I have, learn as much as I can, save as much as I can, and set myself up for success so that someday I can make the decision of whether I want to be here or not. And if somebody else makes that decision, that I'm going to be okay with it because I have constantly prepared for it. And that was really what I had always gone into, was I need to have enough money so that if anything was to happen, that I would be okay. And that's really what is supposed to happen. And the idea is that we get to choose how we look at these things. We can look at the past as a lens that is keeping us back, that's in the negative, or we can move forward. And the simple fact is that we have the power. We are not children who have to wait for our parents to allow us to have the ice cream or to go on that walk or to get that clothing. It's up to us to decide. And once we realize that the past doesn't have power over us, our partners don't, our parents don't, our bosses don't, and the power that they do have over us stops. It stops at some level. Your job only expects so much out of you in order to give you a paycheck. Your parents can only expect so much of you after you no longer live in their house and you're just allowed to see them when you want to. Your friends can only have a certain amount of expectation on you to see them too. You are supposed to live your life for yourself and freely from everyone else. At the end of the day, if you cannot do that, You are accepting that other people have more power over you than you have over yourself. And that was the point that I had to get to, was I had to realize that it was my power, that no one was coming to save me. No one was even coming to ask me how I was doing. That's where I was at. All the people I had spent time on, all the things I had done for that job, no one even cared if I was going to live or die because of this choice. And when a lot of people lose their job, it is a scenario of life and death, that living paycheck to paycheck really does mean you need that next paycheck. And if it's not coming, it's not coming. And you have to realign and readjust. And I know that I was in a position where I was okay because I had created that safety net for myself. I had worked so hard to get rid of my student loans, to reduce my expenses as much as possible, because I knew that anything could happen and that to plan for that was in my power. The worst excuse is I didn't think that could happen. And this isn't to go and live in fear that every person you know is going to hurt you or to cut you down or to move on from you or to let you go. But it's to give yourself that cushion to say, I am moving on and I am deciding this for myself, and nobody else needs to validate it for me. And I have the power over my life. I get to choose what I spend money on and what I don't, and nobody gets to tell me otherwise. I went to the store and I spent more money than I probably would have wanted to, but I was getting stuff that would help it make it easier for me to travel. And the person I was with was kind of like, wow, that's a lot of money. And I didn't say anything because I didn't need to, but I was like, this is my money. I make decisions for my life and nobody needs to validate it for me. And I am going through that space of I have power over my life. Every decision I made, every mistake I've made, everything has been under my own hand and has been through my own lens. So I'm going to do with it what I need to and what I will. And I don't need anybody else's input. So stop buying into the past. It has gotten you as far as it can. If you are going to look at it through the perspective of what's happened, look at the lessons. If something has gone on in your life, look at the perspectives that you've gained and look at it through those lenses of how can I gather data about this person and what can I do with it once I have it? Do I need 50 data points that this person isn't into me or this person isn't a great friend? No, because you've learned that you actually only need 15 really good points or 3 or 1 to make this decision. You can trust yourself. And if looking through it at that lens helps you, great. If looking at the past just hurts you, stop looking at it. And the third thing we have to stop buying into is the time sucks. The time grabbers. The things that we are frittering our time away on. And the first thing is telling people how much potential they have, or trying to fix their problems for them, or trying to help them, trying to show them a different perspective so that they can get out of the situation they're in, because you know if they just listen to you, their life would be better. You have to operate under the assumption that everybody is living the exact life that they want to, because they're not changing it. If somebody isn't changing something, it's because whatever they're doing is working for them. Maybe it's not working in the greatest way that it possibly could, but it's working enough for them to not want to change it. So stop wasting your time thinking about people's problems, trying to help them, trying to figure out the right way to say this conversation. Let them go. Stop trying to help other people who aren't even asking for help. If they're not asking for your advice, they don't want it. And stop offering it for free to people who don't care what you have to say. Let it all go. Now, going back to the thing that we talked about earlier is we need to let people show us who they are. We need to let them make the mistakes that they're going to make the decisions toward us that they're going to make. If they're not going to text us for 3 days, we need to know that. And then we need to take that information into evidence and not forget it. If we are constantly offering all this time and space and energy and conversation and joy and fun and laughs, we have to be very diligent as to who's getting it and why. We need to understand that this person may or may not actually deserve this. And the only way we're going to know that is if we let people show us who they are, but then we have to believe it, right? Because we can't get people to see their potential or to change or to be better. We have to take them as they are, because for the most part, people don't change who they are, they grow into who they are. They're not significantly changing at 35 into a new person that has better thoughts or a better relationship with money in any significant manner unless they're doing that themselves. And if they are doing that themselves, then they will ask you for advice when they need it and not when they believe otherwise. So let them show you who they are and then adjust as necessary with evidence. If they're not texting you all the time, if they're not calling, if they don't want to see you, that is evidence as to where they stand with you. And take that into consideration when you continue or don't continue your interactions with them. Limit your time. Give people what they're giving to you. Don't give more. Give a little bit. See if they reciprocate. And if they don't, they're done. You have to move through the world deciding what is okay and what isn't. And only you get to do that. But you have to reevaluate constantly. If you don't pay that Netflix bill or if you don't pay your bills, you don't keep getting that service. People need to stop getting that service from you once they stop paying their dues. If they're not paying into you, they don't get the service of you. It's as simple as that. And the last thing that we're going to talk about is you have to stop being around the people that don't make you feel good. You have to stop giving those people your time. If you have to interact with them, but otherwise get out and find people that you want to be around with, that you have fun, that you laugh with, that you enjoy being around. The people that you don't enjoy being around are not suddenly going to change. That person that makes you anxious or sad or frightful or just feel weird, they're not going to change. They're not going to blossom into something that they're not. They're not going to show up for you suddenly out of nowhere than they have in the past. I recently had a dream about a friend that I used to have, and I was like, there is no way that she was ever going to change. She was never going to show up more for me than she could, and when she thought I was doing better than her or something, she left, and she didn't want to be around it. She didn't want to hear it, because people will only change as much as they're going to change. That's it. So I will write down all of these. This is what I've been looking at. I keep picking weird colors that you can't see on the camera, but I will write all of this down below. I hope you got something out of step number 7. I look forward to seeing you in step number 8, but until then, I hope you have an amazing week.